Been like 6 months since we heard that opening, and it felt weird in a good way, but still weird.
Very weird, but very, very good. Yes, it has been 6 months.
6
Last time
months.
we appeared
Christmas.
together on screen for this particular show is yes, it was the Christmas episode.
I don't hang out with you. What are you talking about?
Welcome to the Big Blue Box with PLD, PJ and PLD. We have made our return. We did take a hiatus, and we should explain that. We'll explain who we are if it's your first time here, and how to like, subscribe, all that good stuff that you're supposed to.
Yeah, we got a Patreon. You can hit the link below. We do movie podcast and things like that. We're covering the MCU on our Patreon right now, so you guys can go hit the link below. Welcome to the channel, by the way. Hi, I'm PJ. That's Paul. That guy. Yeah. He's cute. Look at that smile. Aww. He's been working out. We love him.
So is this guy. 10 miles a day, PJ. Come on, 10 miles a day at this point. Come on now.
Look, man, some of us, I'm trying to stay young. That's the problem. I reached 35 and I went, we're rolling right towards 40, and I want to feel like, I can still function at that age.
Some of us are looking up a little higher at this point.
Yeah, but you don't look a day over 22.
Oh, you sweetheart, you sweetheart, you. If you don't know us, we actually do another podcast. PJ kind of alluded to it too. Middle-aged Geeks on Film. We do franchise films. We started as a horror podcast, then we kind of branched out. And now we're doing all sorts of things. Right now, we're in the middle of Superman, leading up to James Gunn's Superman. That's going to be a lot of fun there as well.
And we just finished covering Man of Steel.
We did just finish covering Man of Steel. That's correct. And the funny thing, the reason why I mentioned that specifically, besides plugging it shamelessly, is that one of the bits we have on that podcast is usually takes us about a good 20 minutes to half an hour to really get into the actual topic we're discussing. Well, if we're covering Man of Steel, we would spend 20, 30 minutes talking about something else. And 9 times out of 10, it was Doctor Who.
Shocker.
So we decided at one point to do a Doctor Who podcast after show for season 1. Then we made a decision not to cover season 2. And we should at least get into that a little bit, why we didn't and why we're back now. What do you think, PJ? Why don't you discuss why?
Okay, so the truth of the matter is that we covered Joy to the World. We had done all of season 1, and we were really enjoying it. But the negativity of the current state of things was kind of pushing us a little bit in the wrong direction. Right. And with all the uncertainty on what we were hearing about season 2 and the potential, and now confirmed, regeneration and Ncuti leaving the show was overshadowing the show itself and our feelings towards the show. And we felt like we couldn't sit down and talk about the show without always dwelling on where it was going.
Especially considering at one point the rumor was a hiatus was coming, potentially, or cancellation was coming, potentially. That was like the thing that was kind of lording over us.
And it still kind of is.
It still is. We haven't really got an answer yet. But it basically became a show where we didn't want to have it to do a show every week, even though we're doing an after show. We wanted to be positive, because we like to be positive people generally, and the entire show would have been us basically hoeing and humming and going, well, this could be good, but it's going to get canceled, so what does it matter? Almost in a way, like it's like we were really getting depressed about it. Like there's real depression in the real world. Obviously, it's not depression. Like this is not like there's like real stuff going on that we can really. So this is like a TV show. It isn't the end of the world, obviously, but it's something that we do hold great weight with. We've been long time fans. So I grew up with it since a youngster. I grew up with Tom Baker as my doctor, and then I really embraced it and knew him.
Yeah, in the same way that that if you guys don't know, I grew up watching it on PBS. It was the Tom Baker and Peter Davison era. Like that was huge for me. And when 2005 rolled around, very similarly, I very much latched on to the show. Sci-Fi Channel was running it. We were about a year behind at that time. The internet hadn't quite gotten the torrenting thing fully down yet.
Right.
So there was that whole thing. But boy, man, do I love it.
This
Of
guy
course,
listened to
I love it.
every Big Finish episode out there. I think he's got them all. I think we're close to it at
I
this
have
point.
I have quite a bit of it. I keep going through. Actually, funny enough, over the weekend I finally finished getting all the unit ones that I needed to get.
Nice.
And I've been slowly like collecting the back end of like all the early monthly range stuff, because when it comes to Big Finish, the truth of the matter is like I really focused on listening to the Eighth Doctor stuff, because that was where the bread and butter was of getting Paul McGann as the Doctor. For those who don't know, McGann is like it's hard for me to choose a favorite Doctor. 11 is the one I relate to the most, just in a human nature sort of way. But I really love McGann, and it's amazing how far he came from one television movie to like his entire run being an audio drama.
That
And
television movie
so
didn't exactly light the world on fire, obviously, and wasn't the greatest movie. We had fun with it,
we covered it.
obviously. We did cover it, and we had fun with it, absolutely.
I like it.
Um, I know you like, and the main reason you like it is because you love Paul McGann so much, and I
Sure do.
enjoy it, and I enjoy Paul McGann as well. I know the fandom as a whole. It's kind of feel that the fandom as a whole is not a huge fan of the movie, but also like us, really does appreciate Paul McGann to the point where I think it was almost there wanting him to come back, which is why we got them in a few mini episodes, like in the 50th anniversary and things. And of course, Big Finish chomped at the bit to get him, and he was happy to come back. So he's now appeared on screen only a handful of times. Still, we only had the TV movie, a couple of minisodes, and he appeared in The Power of the Doctor, obviously the Jodie Whittaker regen episode, last of the Chibnall era. And he's been great.
I don't do robes is one of my favorite lines. There's always one.
There's always one. Myself, if you're just going to say it out there, and again, it's your first time, I was a Baker guy growing up. I'm a Capaldi guy now. He's my favorite of all time. He's just a grumpy old man like I am, so I kind of appreciate it. At this point, I still think he's underrated, and I still think honestly he is underappreciated sometimes, to be honest with you. But that's another soapbox to get on at some point. But either way, just that's some of our background, so you know where we're coming from. So we didn't want to just sit here every week and be depressing. We don't want to be depressing and be like, because it doesn't make it a fun podcast to listen to, right? But we did make a mention that when around the season, we were texting each other every time an episode came on. We literally had our phones, like we would like watch something and we'd be like, "Oh my god, holy shit!" Like we just had these moments.
But during the last episode, Paul had to start it 10 minutes later than everyone else, and he was like, "I'm gonna be behind you," and it was the first time I was like, "I won't even text you when it's over,"
right?
Because we both, again, we'd read the writing on the wall.
Yes,
we knew where it was all headed.
Right.
But on the off chance that it was the one time that all those leaks were wrong, because the truth of the matter is we are both terminally online individuals.
Sure.
We are, and that's okay. Like, it is what it is. It happens. In fact, I think we're all pretty terminally online these days, but that's fine. That's another another story to talk about later. Yeah, it's a whole nother conversation. But I remember being like, look, I won't even text you.
Right.
And like, I won't react, which is a weird thing for me to do, because generally speaking, I text you about everything. The other night, especially, you your slew of text messages in a row about how much I love the Muppet movie and how it's absolute cinema. That's who I am, and that's the relationship we have. So I genuinely was like, all right, I'm not even going to react. And honestly, I'm kind of glad I didn't, because it meant that I put my phone down.
Yeah, we kept in the moment.
Yeah, and I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I was like, I wanted to make it through the hour and 10-minute episode with no one bothering me. I wanted to let it happen, and I fucking sobbed through the last 30 minutes. Like, I legitimately, from the moment that Kate says, "We're all your children," I cried all the way to the end.
Yeah, same. Me as well. My son wasn't, and my wife, oh my god, she was a mess. But before we got there,
she could barely breathe.
She could barely breathe. She wanted me to tell PJ that she could barely breathe. She's like, "Tell PJ I can barely breathe." I'm like, I will. Don't worry. I'll tell her. I'll tell him. But the funny thing is, that's what we do all season. Though we did talk a lot, and we always were like, how very positive about the show. So we started stirring about doing. Well, you know what? We missed talking about it. We're going to talk about it anyway at some point. Maybe after the season ends, if it ends and it's not canceled or not on a hiatus necessarily, maybe we'll just do a season 2 recap kind of thing, because we can talk positively about it either way at that point. At least we'll know, at least we'll have some partial answers. And we do have partial answers. Obviously, Ncuti's no longer the Doctor. We had the introduction of Billy Piper, which we will talk about for sure. And even though we don't know what's next, we know the war between land and sea is next. That spinoff is still coming on Disney Plus. We're
The
not
trailer's
sure.
cute.
The trailer's cute. Yeah, the trailer's cute. Beyond that, we don't know what the future holds. There's been no announcement about a commission of season 3, but we both feel positive that it's going to continue in some fashion, way, shape, or form. And we're gonna get into that too. So we decided to come back for this time. We want to also, I'm going to call a spade. We want to combat some of the negativity. This episode was not well received by a lot of folks on the internet, and I don't know if it's a loud minority.
Doctor Who episodes not being well received? What? No.
I don't know if it's a loud minority or how loud the minority is, and if the positivity is just quiet. I don't know, but either way, we wanted to get it out there. And beyond the reactions we watched, like I watched the Real Rejects reaction to it, and I watched Late to the Party's reaction to it, and I watched a couple of the reactions, and they seemed to really enjoy it as well, like we did. So that kind of bolstered my energies, and I'm very happy to be here now. Talking about this because we had a hell of a time this season. We actually both of us really enjoyed the season, and we enjoyed Ncuti's run as a whole for the most part. That's not to say it's perfect. RTD has never been perfect. People seem to forget that. Some people think that RT coming back was like he's a savior and he's going to fix Doctor Who and all this stuff. And everything he did this year was it seemed to me like pure Davies. It's like for good and bad, and it just mostly
it was exactly what I anticipated.
It's a chaotic mess.
Yeah, it's exactly what Paul's saying. It's what I expected from Russell T Davies coming back, because I don't think people remember what season 1 and 2 look like.
Yeah.
And that sounds weird to say, but nostalgia glasses, and this is a thing that I have talked about a lot on here, on our other podcasts especially, is that there is this idea that everything you loved was perfect all the time. And on the one hand, that's adorable and cute that you think that, but being young and being what you are, you have this idea of what things looked like. And that is nostalgia glasses at play. And you're somehow now saying that everything is not how you remember it. Well, that's because you're also probably not a child anymore. And the thing with Doctor Who is it's a family show that leans childlike a lot of the times. And those first 2 seasons, especially under Russell, are quite childlike and quite like this.
And it's not like it ever really fully ended. I mean, let's be honest.
No.
One of the ending parts of David Tennant's run, he had the TARDIS drag the Earth back into this place. This is silly, stupid, silly stuff. But it's you have to get into that stuff a little bit if you're going to enjoy Doctor Who. If you aren't into that stuff, then you don't really like Doctor Who, quite honestly, I think. Because there's just so many
I think that's
examples
very
of
true.
that happen throughout the entirety that it's something that you accept. I'm not saying you accept bad writing, because if you don't want to accept bad, whatever it is, I'm not saying this is bad writing, but some people go, oh, it's bad writing, all the horrible writing. I've been hearing bad writing since RTD left, and even before that. Moffat can't write. Chibnall can't write. I'm one who said that Chibnall doesn't write Doctor Who very well. I never thought he did until Power of the Doctor. Honestly, even with his older episodes, I wasn't a big fan of Chibnall's episodes. I never was.
No, I mean, I don't even like his Torchwood episodes, frankly speaking.
I don't love a lot of his episodes, and that's your miles may vary. I think he's actually a very good writer in other things. He's done some great work with Broadchurch and other things like that.
Yeah, he's great not doing science fiction.
It doesn't work for me, and that's okay. And if this doesn't work for you, again, I'm not here to tell you that you are dumb and you have to like it. I get it, but it seems like the negativity has been coming from a weird place, and what PJ was saying, a reflection that everything used to be perfect when I was young. I gotta tell you guys, classic Doctor Who, which a lot of people are spouting on as being the greatest of all time, there's a lot of weird, twisted up writing that goes on in those episodes too, and I love them too. It's just, I don't know. Sometimes you got to be. Maybe you're honestly just too old and cynical now to allow that to enter your life. And if that's the case, I feel bad. Maybe it's time to leave, and that's okay too.
Yeah, it's one of those, and I'll call it what it is. And Paul knows this. We have a mutual friend who is in our fantasy football league, who is very vocally talked about how much he doesn't like current Star Wars and all of this stuff, and that he'd keep watching it. and he would just complain, and he'd watch it and he'd complain, and he watched it and he'd complain. And I finally was like, hey man, I think you need to just stop watching,
Yes.
because all you're doing is perpetuating this idea that you don't like the thing. And you're not going in to want to like the thing. You're going in because you hate the thing and you want to hate the thing. And that's not healthy. And sometimes it's okay if you decide that you no longer like a thing, it's okay to walk away.
Yes. And that's, I mean, I've been saying that for years, and people don't want to hear it. And it is what it is. What are you going to say? But,
Yeah, so I think that there's a lot of unfortunate truth to that in this fandom currently, and I
yeah.
think that that's kind of been the reaction to the last 2 seasons.
And I also have to throw out there is another reason that some things have been written the way they are too. We have to acknowledge the sort of elephant in the room, is that there is studio involvement and behind the scenes stuff that have influenced what RTD has to do. And I'm not talking about Disney, by the way. That's been one of my big rants. A lot of people are like, oh, since Disney they've fucked it up. And I'm like, really? Disney gave them a budget. That's pretty much everything Disney did, because RTD has said Disney has not given him any flack at all. Like, I remember the one note they gave that I remember was when we talked about before was the first Christmas special, which introduced the Doctor Stern in the episode. And quite frankly, they were right. So Disney is not the problem here. I gotta say, Disney not the problem as far as like studio interference goes. Some of their business practices are maybe part of the problem, but I think there's a greater problem that they're a part of that's not necessarily even their fault. And let's call it what it is. I'm going to go back and I'm going to detail some of the problems we've had, and then we can go through how we've dealt with them and what's going to happen moving forward. We have in the beginning, Disney got entered this agreement with BBC to produce Doctor Who. RTD was going to come back. They were going to have the 60th anniversary. RTD had these big grand plans, and with Disney's budget, they could do no more skip seasons. They could have a season every year. They were going to have the Whoniverse. They were going to have it like spin-offs and everything else. And I think the idea eventually was to get like at least New Who under the banner of one streaming service, and that would be Disney and everything else. And you got to remember, this is the time when streaming was booming. This is when we're going to do everything. We had like 5, 6, 7 Marvel things in the works. We had like 4 Star Wars. Disney was going all in on streaming. Then the first season happened, and it wasn't exactly the huge hit that Disney wanted, I've heard, but I didn't hear the numbers were bad either. I think there's been kind of some misinformation there. I don't think it was great, but I don't think it was awful either. And then something happened, and that is streaming started, quote unquote, dying, as far as even Disney has said. Tony Gilroy came out and said Disney pretty much flat out told them that streaming is dead almost. Yeah. And they're not entirely wrong. You can't
almost like we've been saying that for a long time, buddy.
Absolutely. 100%. So all of a sudden that changed the narrative. And that's not necessarily, I don't say that's not necessarily Disney's fault, but Disney entered that plan with good faith arrangement. But then the business does change, and you got to adapt to that. And unfortunately, that meant they are taking the original deal, which was 26 episodes, which was season 1, season 2, and the 6-episode spinoff of the War Between Land and Sea, which was the initial idea, because he wanted to spin-offs and everything else. And in retrospect, I probably would have gotten rid of the War of the Land and Sea and just got more Doctor Who episodes. But it is what it is. And then they would go forward from there. And Disney has been hesitant to commission a season 3, trying to figure out what they want to do. That has led to some issues. Part of the issue being Ncuti. Ncuti was an up-and-coming actor, hot shot actor, had a part in Barbie, had a part in Sex Education. He is someone who's on the rise. It gets to the point where he can't wait around for a Disney to say, yeah, we're going to do season 3 now. I mean, RTD is set. He has written season 3 already, pretty much, and parts of season 4.
And it sounds like it was written for Ncuti.
It was absolutely written for Ncuti. And that's the thing, too. And this is all part of the thing. There's a rumor going around as well. I'm going to hijack this part of the conversation and then come right back. There is a rumor at one point that Ruby Sunday, what's the actress' name? I'm blanking on her name. Millie Gibson.
Yeah, Millie Gibson.
There was a rumor at one point.
I almost said Millie Bobby Brown, and I was like, that's wrong, Millie.
So did I. I'm like, that's not the right one. There's a rumor going around at one point that during season 1 there's some kind of issue. Everyone blamed Millie and everyone else, and that she wasn't going to come back. And then she was back, and then Belinda was there. And I think there's probably some truth to the rumor in that I think there was a time where maybe Millie Gibson wasn't going to come back for season 2, and then whatever the issue was fixed. I don't think it was necessarily her fault or her being a behavioral issue like initially was reported by some of the tabloids. I think it was kind of one of those things where, like, I don't know, maybe it was a scheduling thing or was it, either way, whatever the issue was, it got worked out and she came back. Unfortunately, RTD had already moved forward at that point with Belinda, because I quite frankly believe in my heart that season 2 was written initially to be a second season of Ncuti and Millie.
Yes,
And
100%.
then he pivoted, he got Belinda in, and then Millie came back. And so there was this kind of like, we're gonna improvise and we're gonna read things. And that's why I think Belinda gets a little short-shrifted at times, because basically they're sharing the part of one companion. Almost it feels like at the end. And Belinda does get a little short-shrifted in the final episode, which we're going to get to. I promise we're going to get to the final episode, but I think this is an important conversation to have first. The other part of that conversation is going back to the Ncuti of it all, is RTD is planning this all out for Ncuti. He plans completely out. Everything was done. There was actually a different ending in place. We do know the timeline of events was they were going to do a season 3. Ncuti actually went on Graham Norton, said they were going to shoot season 3. Disney didn't really commission it at this point. They're still kind of holding off on it. Sometime during this kind of time between 2024 and February 2025, basically Ncuti said, I can't wait around. So if we're not going to have a commitment, I have to go and do other things. So they RTD understood, went back. We have reshoots to insert this ending, which is a new regeneration idea. So the reason I'm doing this long and drawn out story about everything behind the scenes is because that does influence some of the decisions that were made, and they're kind of handicapping RTD a little bit. RTD had a story he wanted to tell, and he had to improvise a little bit.
And Ncuti kind of handicapped him too in some capacity by deciding to leave. And look, here's the thing: I've seen a lot of people saying that Ncuti is being he's being too into his own rising star. He shouldn't be leaving. He shouldn't, there's a lot of people that are going after him for deciding to leave.
Right.
And I think that that's really silly too, because the truth of the matter is you should also not be sitting around waiting to see if your show is even going to come back.
Absolutely.
Now, granted, the BBC will find a way to keep the show going. Things are a lot different now than they were in the 80s when the show initially went off the air before we ended up in the wilderness era. Like it's a much bigger thing now comparatively to when it was originally canceled. It's a bigger global thing. Now, granted, it is still a cult thing. And that's the thing that I think a lot of the fans also need to remember. Doctor Who is not like a huge rating success type thing. It's never been like a mainstay big show. It's a culty show, and that's okay. Like, actually, it's kind of cool that we've had it on for as long as we have, for being kind of a cult following type of thing. Mm-hmm. So the fact that it's bigger now than it's ever been, the BBC will still find a way to keep it going. Right. There's every chance that Disney decides to stay with them, and instead of focusing fully on streaming, there's always a chance that they decide that it'll also air on, say, like ABC. There's plenty of ways for them to continue this while also having it on Disney Plus.
I also want to interject real quick. I honestly think it's going to come back to Disney Plus, and the reason why I think that is the not leaked information, but the information came out that Doctor Who has been the streaming of Doctor Who, the new Who, had been on Max for a long time. That contract ends August. Very timely. I think if Disney Plus is smart and they can acquire the rights to that and actually have a Whoniverse like initially RTD initially wanted, that might be enticing enough for them to go, okay, we'll commission a season 3, maybe at a reduced budget, which is okay, I think, at this point, reduced budget. They'll have the entirety of the Whoniverse. Maybe they'll even get the rights for Torchwood. I don't know who has Torchwood's rights.
It is all
on Max, right?
Yeah, all of it. Sarah Jane, Torchwood, all of it.
Everything, even Class. I wonder, is Class on Max? Do you know?
No, Classic is kind of on.
No, Class, that spinoff, the Capult,
like the World Era spinoff. It might be. To be honest, I never really looked.
I watched only one episode.
I have it. So you watched the pilot because it had Peter Capaldi. I know you.
Absolutely. I think I watched 1 or 2 episodes after that. It never quite caught me, and I might sit down and actually watch. If it's streaming somewhere, I might actually watch at some point.
It might be on Max, honestly.
Could be. I don't know. I don't know for sure. But either way, I digress. Is like if all those rights are coming open, and Disney goes, you know what, we can actually make the universe we initially wanted, and all I have to do is maybe commission one more season at this point, and then we can make a decision again after that. That might be something that they decide to do. I feel like that's a smart play. I could be wrong because studios don't always make the smart play, or maybe there's stuff going on that I have no idea about. I am a almost 50-year-old man in upstate New York who does not have any ties with anybody. I don't know what's going on necessarily. I'm just trying to read the tea leaves, what I can see, and look at things and go, well, if I was Disney, I would do this. So that's my thought on it. I don't know. Either way, it will continue, though. I think in some way, whether it might be a couple of years, we might have to like retool some things and do something else. But I think it's definitely going to come back. And BBC might even find another partner.
Well, and I've heard that even BBC is like talking about moving away from being focused on the iPlayer stuff and
Right.
making sure that it also airs on BBC before it goes on iPlayer and things like that. So, like,
Right.
the way of the world is changing back to the way it was
Right.
before all of this.
Right. Which is
So
a
I'm
good
very
thing, but I think
curious.
it's actually a good thing. I think
No,
it's
of course it is. I think
we're
that
healing.
streaming is a great idea for things that are older, but not necessarily for things that are new. And I think we've learned that there's great streaming shows. That's not saying that there aren't great shows. It's that I think that fundamentally streaming has broken how people actually interact with their shows.
It's all Stranger Things' fault.
Yeah, no, 100%. I blame Netflix for all of it, and
Yeah.
frankly speaking, I think that Netflix wants to have things broken. The fact that their CEO has been like, "Yes, I am actively trying to kill theaters," is a problem.
I agree.
In the same way that he's trying to kill how people watch television, but we're seeing that people actually prefer weekly releases because it creates water cooler talk again. People don't feel like they're forced to watch stuff super quickly so that they don't get spoiled on things. You don't
Absolutely.
get burned out on a thing just as fast. Um,
Absolutely. 100%.
yeah,
100%.
like it matters.
And I think honestly, there's a healthy middle ground at some point. I don't want to see streaming shows come to an end completely. I think
No, no,
there's a place for them. I think sometimes the budget might have to cut down a little bit. They have to like be a little more understandably figure out what's going on. Maybe and maybe you're right too. You can do a run on ABC or something. You can do a run somewhere else eventually at some point too. Maybe start the streaming service, like get subscribers in there, and then later on you recoup some of the budget by putting it on the main screen somewhere else. I mean,
yeah,
because some people who are like Star Wars fans, just throw it out there. I'm gonna subscribe to Disney Plus for a new Star Wars series. Like if Ahsoka season 2 comes out, I would be there in a second, even if it's coming to ABC a month, 2 months down the line. I'll still get it because I want to see it right away. But some people might wait for it. Some people might go, I'm going to wait 2 months for it to come on ABC. That's okay too. You still will get some people who want to subscribe for that reason, and then you're going to get the people who didn't subscribe for the content for the old stuff. Exactly what it is. So there's definitely a place where streaming makes sense.
yeah,
It just is.
100%.
They just got to retool a little bit. I don't want to see this. The problem is like we're recorrecting right now. I don't want to see an over corrected go back kind of thing. It's like too much out of the way because I feel like that's the wrong play too. So let's find that middle ground, guys.
Yeah, and again, I think it's actually better for older projects and things like this, and that like it's better for rewatching things like Doctor Who. It's better for rewatching things like Star Trek. Don't get me wrong. And I'll say this. I think Paramount does it the best. Weirdly enough, Paramount has, and I say that because I love Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been rewatching a lot of Star Trek lately, but they also do weekly releases with a lot of their shows. Amazon also similarly does the same thing with things like Reacher. And
Right.
guess what? It gets people talking.
Mm-hmm.
So the hope, of course, is that someone figures all this out. And credit where credit's due. They didn't drop every season of Doctor Who all at once. They did the weekly release. Like they kept it like it was a classic serial model type of thing.
Right.
And I'm glad because I really liked this season of Doctor Who. I
I
liked it a
did
lot, in
too.
fact. Now I'll say this, and you sort of alluded to what I've been thinking about this season early on, and I always said it while we did the show last year. I always thought it was so strange that we were getting 8-episode seasons when the show used to be 13-episode
Right.
seasons.
Right.
And so I always assumed coming in that these 2 seasons that we were getting on Disney Plus were basically one season.
Mm, right.
And they very clearly were. Like, it was a season that was split in half, with 2 different companions because of all the stuff that happened behind the scenes, and good lord, so much happened behind the scenes with this show between 2 seasons, more than it probably should have,
Yeah.
and I think it did handicap some of the storytelling to some capacity, but even with all of that, I felt like these 2 seasons, and especially or this yeah, these 2 seasons or 1 extended season, depending on how you wanna look at it, featured some of the best storytelling the show had done, while also overcoming some of the messiest storytelling it's ever done to end on a much more heartfelt note and in its finale. Now,
Yeah.
here's the thing, I'm gonna get it out of the way. I really love I love the regeneration, I love the finale, I love everything within that episode, with the caveat being that as a storytelling standpoint, it's a mess. Um, it's one of the messiest finales that they've ever done, but again, at the same time, I can forgive a lot of it knowing how much had to change just to get it to where it is.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that the Omega stuff is very clearly rushed. Yeah, Omega looks ridiculous, and that's okay though. It better than him looking like a crab or whatever that rumor was with the
Right.
crab
Right.
claws and shit. I love that once they realized that they had to do a lot of reshoots to rejigger this ending, they leaned on screw it, we're going to make it like a super powerful emotional type of ending, and it's not going to be about making it all tie together and make sense logically. We're going to
Right.
go for the heart. And I thought that was way more interesting and way more important.
And way more like the way to go because I
Yes.
mean, like at its heart, Doctor Who has always been about heart. I mentioned before, we have a lot of silliness. There's a lot of time in a show that uses timey-wimey all the time to like massage things. We are a time and travel show that has been going for over 60 years. Whatever breaks you have. I know there's some breaks in there, but either way, 60 years have been going, telling stories in ways. How are
As
you
I joked about earlier, by the way, we're talking about season 2, season 15, or season 41, depending on how you want to look at it.
right? And how even like the most like intelligent story crafters ever could not keep all of that completely straight over the course of 60 years, especially with the time travel show, because that's what things screw things up. So it's a show that at its core has always used timey-wimey and things of that nature to massage things. If things don't exactly work out, it's okay. I like this is some of the Star Wars canon when they did. I mentioned this before. We talk about Star Wars canon being retconned here and there. These are all the Doctor Who has always been also a like a fireplace story or a campfire story. You take what you want to see out of it, and some things are perceptive are a little different here and there. It all works out close enough, and you don't have to have everything specifically spelled out for you. And because it's not that kind of show, as Harrison Ford told Mark Hamill about Star Wars, it's not that kind of show. It's a show about the feelings and the characters that you love. I think those work. Now, I will understand a complaint about some people who said they didn't really feel they got as much into Billy Gibson or to Verada Sethu because of limited time. Like they both could have used more time like expanding on their character to really engage with them. That's why they're not as beloved so far as say like Rose Tyler, who had a lot of episodes and a lot of seasons, like a lot of seasons, or like Amy Pond, who had a lot of episodes with Matt Smith and everything else. Sure,
Mhm.
they of course they're gonna be a little more beloved. They did have more time, so that's a handicap you got to take into place. But I think what the show does, it shows them, it shows you enough to kind of invite them in, and then you can kind of fill in the rest with your own like little bits and pieces of who they are, and that works. And if their character and the actors are good enough, and I think they both are, I did feel a lot for leaving them. I don't want to leave either of them. I don't want to leave any of them behind, honestly. We're going into a totally new era again with we're leaving again like the Matt Smith era at this point, going in from David Tennant to Matt Smith. We have a new doctor and we're going to have new companions.
Mhm.
I mean, beyond that, even the pension. We'll talk about some theories we have by the end of the show, I'm sure, as we always do.
Theories? No.
Right, exactly. Um, but yeah, so I agree with you. It's a mess at times. It's absolutely a mess at times. There's some things that didn't have some closure that I would love to have
The Susan stuff.
so like, what happened? No idea. Maybe it's being saved for season 3 now. Maybe.
Uh,
You know what?
y
Something I didn't like that we didn't get closure on, really get closure on? Rogue.
yeah.
Got that
I
little
mean,
piece.
hell, even even Ruby. We never
Mhm.
really get like And I feel like arguably that's so much of the point of the Ruby character in some capacity is that you're never really supposed to get an answer. Like
Right.
he's just supposed to be Ruby, and that's fine. But there's still like this mystery of why it snows around her.
Right.
What's the
Exactly.
stuff going on with her? Like,
Why is she the glitch, the one that can remember the glitches, that kind of thing, and everything else?
yeah,
I know it's kind of implied that because she's a child of a glitch kind of thing herself, that that's why she's more in tune to it. I can accept that,
I mean, I
but
can too, but it's also sometimes we do need to be a little bit more overt about what's going on.
right, absolutely, and that's the thing is like when we say how positive we are about this, we're not denying that there's some
No,
stuff that could have been massaged. And hell, let's be honest, the whole Omega thing, a
like I
little bit of
said,
a
I called
letdown.
it out.
A
The Omega thing is like
bit of a letdown.
pretty much useless by the time it's done. So is the Ronnie thing in some
Right.
capacity. Like they fucking decided to do this whole thing that leads to the bi generation, and then Omega's like, "Cool, I'm gonna eat one of you like I'm a Tic Tac."
And frankly, the funny thing is, it's the one they chose in a way. I guess they had to choose that one because she was the dominating one, a domineering one. But like Mrs. I think if any either of
I
those
thought it
two,
would have been Flood.
I thought it would have been Flood too. And as someone who loves Anita Dobson is hoping Anita Dobson stays for long enough to get Brian May into an episode because being a big Queen fan. But Archie, Archie, I can't remember her last name. She does a
She
phenomenal
was
job.
so good, and I gotta say, I was just happy that Ronnie was back, and
Yeah,
I thought that the character was done really well.
yeah, I agree. I agree.
And I actually didn't mind the answer to the bi-generation either.
Yeah, I like that actually. I actually do like that. I think it
Yeah,
makes a lot of sense to me that this is because that's what happens in life. Life finds a way, and if you can't move on, then they find a way to make you move on or whatever. They make in a way right, for the race to survive. That's very much life. So when he says it like that, it's kind of like, huh. In a show like Doctor Who and the timey-wiminess of it all, that makes perfect sense.
yeah, 100%. I don't know, man, like, yeah, the storytelling all season was actually pretty strong across the board, and I liked Belinda a ton,
Yeah, me too.
but
I
felt
did.
like she kinda got kneecapped in the finale also. That was
Yeah.
the other thing, and I'll call that out. Like, I felt like, again, a lot of it being because so much was rejiggered, it kind of felt weird how her storyline ended,
Right. Also, she's a mom in a box. Like, well,
to the space pivot.
this is Space Baby, right? And that's a weird thing too. Like, I thought there'd be more too. Like, we're like theorizing. Oh, is the Ronnie create the Space Babies? Is that how it's all going to tie in? No, not just that. All of a sudden, we rejiggered. One of the Space Babies was the Doctor's somehow. And okay, all right, sir.
Yeah, there was some, like, weirdness to that whole closure, and again, my assumption being because Russell knew that he wasn't gonna get to do season 3 with Shooty, it really changed how he had to change the ending. Because I bet you season 3 was gonna tackle a lot of this,
I do think so
and
too.
now without it being Shooty, it's gonna be a little harder to go back to,
Yeah, yeah.
because so much of it was so tied specifically to his version of the Doctor.
Not only that, but like again, like I said, we also don't have Ruby Sunday or Belinda Chandra either. We have no one to tie us back to this except for technically maybe Mrs. Flood. That's the only person who would actually tie back to that potentially. I mean, obviously Unit as well, but like that's Unit's kind of always there, so they don't really count as far as tying things back. They don't feel like tethered to this era. So like it's not like that kind of thing where you can like lean on that at all.
You're
Maybe
right.
lean on Mrs. Flood, maybe, but that's another long shot.
No, it 100% is. So, you know, it'll be very curious to see what happens with the next season.
Right.
Because it's very clear stuff was kind of left out in the open to be used. We've seen pictures of the original finale where it seemed like it was more of a party at the unit headquarters sort of thing. They were all having
Right.
fun. Susan was going to be there, et cetera, et cetera. They're absolutely going to have to go back to this, and they need to do it sooner rather than later because Carol Ann Ford is not getting younger.
No. No, exactly. You can't and you have to do it, like you said, because at this point, you can't this has been something that's been in the works, like, in the people and fans' minds for a long time. People have wanted Susan to come back. We've had other companions come back. Hell, we had that big, companion circle jerk back in the Power of the Doctor, where everybody was back. Like almost every
They
living
really
companion
should
was
do
in there.
more with that, by the way.
I think they should too. I think that's a big Finish thing waiting to happen. If nothing else, a big Finish thing
Yeah.
waiting to happen. But that being said, Susan didn't appear there, and everybody's like, "Well, Susan's alive." The actress who plays is the only living actress who was there from the beginning. There in the first part of Doctor Who, she's there, and she's alive, and she's willing to come back. You made appearances with her. You teased her appearance. You can't not follow up on that in some way, shape, or form.
No.
And you should do it soon. I don't want to be not being morbid. She is not getting any older, and we want to get that. We want to get that done. Let her have her big finale moment with the Doctor at some point. And I think it's got to be this season, or soon rather. They should film something now anyway. Get something in there. Because otherwise it's a waste, and what a waste opportunity. And I'd almost rather have her had not appeared at all than to have that take place. I mean, I guess throwing shit at the wall like randomly, you could, like, she is part Time Lord, so you could regenerate her if like the worst case scenario happens later on down the line and have the younger actors play her. That works kind of, but this is an opportunity where you have to use her, then you should use her.
Yeah. I and it's weird because like they really spent so much of the last two seasons rather building to her coming back.
Yes.
And then you didn't really do anything with it. And I think that that's because there's going to be more play, and obviously that was always the idea anyway. But now the question is, does that take a back seat? Because the other part we have to deal with and we should talk about is, of course, that Billie Piper is back, but we don't know who Billie Piper is playing.
Yeah, some people definitely miss that, like in the reactions and stuff. I'm like, oh my God, it's Billie Piper, it's a new Doctor. Well, friends, yes, Billie Piper came back, but I think that the introducing Billie Piper, that as the Doctor was particularly missing that credit, which is, that seems to me, it can't have been a mistake because it's been so prominent every time it has happened. Every time it's always introducing John Hurt as the Doctor, introducing Matt Smith as the Doctor, introducing Billie Piper.
Yeah. And not just that. I mean, they're 100% like very, very much dodging who she's playing, even in the press.
There was a press release that Ursula T. Davies came out and basically said who she is just as much a mystery as everything else, kind of thing. So yeah, they're leaning into it at this point. We do have our theories potentially.
Yeah, but you know what, man? I like the casting. You know why I like the casting? Because Billie Piper's a hell of an actress. She's come a long way since the show started. Before she was a pop singer, then she became, the actress on Doctor Who and was doing some other stuff. But over the last 20 years, she's become a hell of an actress.
I agree.
And I really think that you can do something with this. And yeah, sure, it can reek of desperation if you want it to. It can reek of stunt casting if you want it to. If you want to look at things that way, sure, yes, but go ahead. Like, I can't.
You know what? We're also guilty of that. I don't want to be hypocritical.
Yeah.
We both said the same thing about RDJ coming back as a Doom.
Yeah, but it's
similar
also
scenario to a degree.
To a degree. And also, but actually, I've been higher on the RDJ thing than you were.
Yes, that's
for
true.
the same
That's
reason.
True. Yeah, that's true. I had a hard time with it. I had a hard time with RDJ that I did with Billie Piper, because Billie Piper to me also makes sense because, quite frankly, this is a show that has done that before. We've had, if Billie Piper, let's say if she's the Doctor, let's say she is the Doctor. We've had it happen with Peter Capaldi. We've had it actually happen with Peter Davison. Actors have appeared in the show before. Yes, this is the case where
we've had a face return.
Right. This is a Peter Capaldi returned and everything else. And hell, the curator said, revisiting the familiar old faces, we all assumed that meant previous doctors. What to say that's not somebody else like a companion. Yes, the first thing to do. But this is the kind of thing that Doctor Who likes to explore. Just the kind of thing we like to explore Doctor Who. It's timey-wimey. It's out there. It's the most bizarre shit out there. I think that makes more sense to me than the RDJ coming back as Dune, to be completely honest with you. Which is why, but I wanted to make sure that that's not, because I know I've been on the record of being against RDJ coming back to a degree, although I've lightened on it a little bit. I'm going to eventually go, I'm still looking forward to Doomsday and everything else. So like, I'm going to eventually go into it, but I wasn't as excited as a lot of people were, but I am excited about Billie Piper. I am. I know a lot of people aren't. A lot of people are like, oh, it's desperate. Oh, it's RGD. You can't escape the past. Oh, it's this and I think, oh, what it is, it's kind of celebratory, and it's kind of like a thing
Yes.
like let's take a show that is notorious for having good baggage. I mean, baggage. I mean, lore, history. And let's embrace that lore while we have it, while we can do something with it. And it's not like this is that. This is also one of those things where I don't like is that this is temporary. It's always temporary. She's not the
Mhm.
doctor for the rest of her life.
She may not even be the doctor.
She might not be the doctor, first of all. And if she is, I wouldn't be surprised if this is like a 3, 4, 5, 6 episode thing of her, maybe even kind of thing. Maybe that's what they're going to do next. Who knows? There's a lot of different
Maybe.
ways you can go. So let the
I,
story unfold and then comment on it. This way is the way I say about it.
I love so much that we're doing this though because it created this mystery
Yes.
and of who she's playing, of
Yes.
what it means, of all these like things. And I kind of love the idea that she could be Bad Wolf. She could
Yeah.
be the Moment.
Mm-hmm.
She could straight up be the Valyard. We
Yes,
don't
she
know.
could.
Like there's all these routes to play with it. And I feel like there's a lot of people who are saying that the show has already jumped the shark because of it. And I'm like, guys, the show jumped the shark back when they did the first regeneration just to see if we could keep the show going.
The show
Like
jumped
that,
the shark. You know, times I've heard the show jumped the shark. You know,
yeah.
times I've heard that. The
You know
show was
what the
supposed to end
best
after the 50th.
yeah.
Yeah,
You know what the best part about Doctor Who is?
what's that?
It's single-handedly the best show that you've ever seen, the worst show you've ever seen, and the most odd show you've ever seen all at once, sometimes in the same episode. And
Yeah, I
that's
agree with
the
that.
beauty of the show because it's scrappy, it's weird, it's strange, it does Doctor Who things. This is doing Doctor Who things,
It is absolutely Doctor Who things.
and that's a good thing. We
I
should
agree.
be embracing that. It's like, look, you don't have to love the Billy Piper casting. It's fine. But like also don't be so blinded by your feelings that you also won't allow it to actually attempt to,
Unfold.
yeah, we
Let it
need to
unfold.
let it happen. Like let the story happen. If you decide you don't like it once the story's happened, like fine by all means.
It is what it is at that point. I agree with you 100%. But it does seem like that's the predominating thing I've seen. There's a bunch of people who are excited about it, and that's fine. I'm happy to see that. I'm just tired of some of the online like the vehemence about some of it. And you know what? Some of it's coming from a place where they haven't been happy for a while on it. And you know what? That's okay too. If you haven't liked the show for a while for whatever reason, that's absolutely you're right. But maybe it's time to leave at this point. Maybe it's time not to watch. Why are you putting yourself through it at this point if you're not enjoying it?
Yeah,
No.
and it's not to say like, hey, the door is that way. We like when
Mm,
people want to enjoy
oh,
things and whatnot,
100%.
but like at the same time, it's what I said earlier. Sometimes you need to know when your time is up with a thing.
Yes. 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 Yes.
If you
Exactly.
can't if you can't look at it to enjoy it anymore, maybe it's time to just pack them bags and head out a different direction. There's
And
nothing wrong with that.
right. And exactly. It's not a saying get the fuck out. It's a saying for your own health and for your own enjoyment. Don't put yourself through it. Because you're
Yeah.
also only damaging yourself. And you're honestly, you're damaging people who do love it. You're like, and why do that to people? Why yuck somebody's yum that way? If somebody's really enjoying themselves, like we didn't do a podcast for a season. And part of the reason why was because of the negativity, because we just don't want to put ourselves through it at this point.
No, because I also worried that we would and you know what, it'll probably still happen here,
But
to be
it could.
honest.
And it is what it
Certain
is.
people may find it, and we might get yelled at by people for being so positive, for being able to look at it the way that we do, et cetera.
Yeah,
But at the
absolutely.
same time, I would rather be honest about my feelings in that, yeah, I liked the way it played out. I liked how it came together. It worked. It was messy, but it was fun. I liked the reveals. Um, I have to say, for being an hour and 10 minutes, this episode breezed by. I couldn't
Yes.
believe that it was over as fast as it was. I love that they even rolled it out and made it so important that it was like it went live across the world at the same time.
Yes, I was very happy. I mean, it's funny because like they do that not to keep things from being spoiled. They don't want anybody to spoil
Yeah.
anything, whatever that is. But by doing that, you kind of knew what was going
Well,
to
yeah,
happen.
there's no getting around what was coming at
Right.
that point.
It was like confirmation. We saw that. We're like, yep. Well, that's the case. Judy's gone, and it was sad to hear that way. But what else are you gonna do? You have to figure out a way to do it. You know what I mean? They just did it that way. But yeah, I agree, man. I agree. It's kind of a tricky situation, but we are trying to be positive here. And if you're in the my comments to be negative about it, as long as you're polite about it and you just say you didn't like it, no problem with it. Just don't start like lambasting it and going off on it like that. I'm not going to deal with. I'm not going to deal with anything like that, especially if it has anything to do with wokeness or whatever. Don't go there at all. Then you're done. I'm just gonna
a show that
right
had the third Doctor talking about people being trans as far back as the 70s has always
Yeah.
been woke. I hate to tell you.
I know
I'm
exactly.
just gonna call it what it is.
I have to tell you, right? Specifically, you were definitely watching the wrong show. It's between this and Star Trek. I'm not sure which show is worse for you to watch at this point.
Oh, those are my favorite. I can't believe Star Trek's woke. That happened at the bar the other day. I had people complaining about shows and television and movies being too woke, and I was like, cool. You guys ever seen Star Trek? And they're like, yeah, we love Star Trek. And I was like, cool, you like woke programming. And they were like, what? And I was like, you should go back and rewatch some of those old Trek episodes, man.
they're blast.
They weren't fucking subtle. Like, and Doctor Who was no different, man. Like, people just want to be angry all the time, and it sucks. And the thing I liked about this season was that it really embraced this like nature of pushing stories forward and embracing culture. And that episode about the storyteller was so cool and so different, with the World Wide Web spider, and like him going to that barber where he was like, it was the first time I felt seen in this body, in this skin.
Right.
And like I really loved that episode because it was so different, and it was so like interesting. We hadn't had anything like that within the show, and it really hit. And I was like, this is great. We got to see Joe Martin back, which was cool, as the fugitive doctor. There's a little part of me that keeps hoping that Russell will keep finding ways to bring her and Jodie back, because that was the other thing in this episode, the finale specifically.
We haven't brought it up yet,
was the return of Jodie, and just so good. Number one, so good. A reminder also of like, she was never the problem with her seasons. It was always the writing. It's the thing you and I have said for so long, is that she tried so hard over and over and over again to overcome the writing in those seasons. And she was always such a joy to watch, and to see her for 5 minutes with someone else writing the character was such a breath of fresh air, because you could just tell how happy she was to be there, and how much she loves the character, and how much she hadn't lost that beat. Like, she can still do it. Let her do it as much as possible, because I want her to be back as many times as you can, because she's so goddamn good.
100%. She's so good. She had such a great time. She had a blast. I think she might have had more of a blast than anybody else in this episode. She just like exuded joy. And you know, it's interesting you bring up. I mean, you naturally bring up her era, which is an era that you and I particularly weren't completely fond of. We understand when people aren't fond of eras, quite frankly. And if you're not fond of this era, we understand to a degree. We think, like, technically, we think you're wrong in terms of it matches up with Doctor Who more than you think it does. We actually think the 13th Doctor era, or the Jodie's era, was not exactly what we want out of Doctor Who. And some people love that era, by the way. Some people actually really. I found a lot of people online that really love that era.
Don't, and I've never blamed her though.
No, never blamed her. Never blamed Yaz. Never blamed the characters. Just didn't feel very Doctor Who to me. And we stuck through it. I don't think either of us were very. I don't think we were ever mean about it. The only person we were ever maybe mean to was Chibnall, and I was basically just saying we didn't like his style. And that is what it is.
I still don't think he's a very good writer for science fiction.
I don't think so either. But again, it's not. He's a fine person. I think he tried his hardest. I just think it wasn't a good fit. It wasn't a good fit for me. But we stuck through it, and we came out the other end, and we were happy, and we're happy again at this point. And in fact, I go back to the Jodie era when I rewatched the entirety of the thing leading up to the 60th. And I did like the Jodie era more on rewatch, and that's partially because I really glomming onto Jodie. She was that good that I was able to glom onto it a little bit. So there's definitely some things in there that are jewels. Is what it is. We all like Power. Both you and I both did really enjoy Power of the Doctor. Her final
Dude,
episode.
the bummer about Power of the Doctor is that it is everything I wanted that era to be
Yeah,
in 90 minutes, and it feels too little too late. And it
yeah,
bums me out a lot because now, granted, and Chibnall may be fudging some of this, and I don't want to think that, but he has said he wanted to do more classic Who stuff, but he continually was stopped by the BBC.
oh,
Um,
okay,
I don't know how true that is because they seem to love nostalgia at the BBC. Um, and I don't know if it was just that they were like, man, you had your chance, but it's really time for us to move on from this. Now, the other side of that is that I just think that the Power of the Doctor, much like this, also messy, but it loves Doctor Who. And it
yes,
loves where it's come from, it loves where it's going, and it really just decides to embrace that, like, go for broke attitude. It's the
right,
kitchen sink approach, and
yes,
sometimes that's okay. Now,
agreed.
maybe we didn't need to have it basically 2 seasons, apart, but it is what it is. There's only so much you can do,
Right,
but I'm not mad about it because I like when we embrace the past of the show while we also move forward.
agreed. 100% agreed on that as well. Um, and that's what RTD actually I think does best. I really think that he does appreciate the history of it, and he tries to envelop something. I mean, he's the one who brought Sarah Jane back, for example, and K9 back, and everything. He's trying to do that quite a numerous amount of times, and that's why I think we're still in good hands moving forward. Do I want to see RTD running this forever again? No, I'd love to see some new blood in the back end there and everything else. And if, if some people have their way, it'll be done sooner than later. Um, but I want to give him a shot to do what he wants to do. I want to see season 3 if it's written that way. I think there's a lot of stuff that's left being told. I think some people, and this is true of all media, we are such a short form content like audience nowadays that like we don't understand the concept of like a story told over 4 or 5 seasons. And RTD could wrap this thing up beautifully in season 4 and 5. Like, oh, that makes sense. We're like, we have to know this now. Like, people are saying, like, we didn't get anything about Susan. We don't know who the boss is. Oh my God, what's going on? It's like, well, we might still find out if you let them. If you let them tell the story, we can still find out. And maybe it'll be very satisfactory at this point. I don't know. It's that's, I'm not saying it's going to be, but at least we should
Yeah.
give them the chance to tell the story. And then we can say, okay, that worked or it didn't work.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that again, I'm willing to see where this all goes because Russell's even said he kind of has a rough 5-year plan for
Right.
where it's all headed. If that's the case, I like to believe that we are going to get answers.
Right.
I like to believe that we are moving forward and we are going to land this plane in some capacity where when we look back at it all, it'll all come together. That also means I'm hoping that we'll actually see Shooty come back in some capacity because you know what Shooty didn't get to do yet? Face
Oh,
a
yeah.
Dalek
Or a Cyberman.
or a Cyberman
Or the
or the
master.
Master.
He is
Literally.
the only long-term doctor. Actually, the only like numbered doctor who did not get to fight any of those 3.
Yeah.
Even Paul McGann.
Dude,
got to at
even the
least,
fugitive doctor sees the Daleks on screen.
and Paul McGann got to see the master at least on screen. Yeah, his
Yeah.
whole TV movie was against the master. Shugawa, who really wanted, he said, I'd be angry if I didn't get to fight the Daleks. Did not get the Daleks, did not get the Cyberman, did not get the master. And yes, I understand some people want to put those guys away for a while because they definitely get used a lot and everything else. But that's kind of part of the thing. Like every doctor in their 2 to 3 season run, if they have a 2 to 3 season run, they should at least fight one of the 3 at the very least.
Hmm.
So, and I would love to see Shooty go up against that. Like that was doctor see him go up against the Daleks. How awesome would that have been? How cool would that have
Yeah, right.
been?
Oh man. I really I really hope he gets a chance to. Now, you had an interesting theory that maybe this is all a workaround for him to work on that play before
It
they
did.
finally do season 3.
It did.
And he actually does come back, which would be super cool. Because
Should I put that out here now? Should I talk about
you
it?
might as well,
I
because the
will put
truth
it
of
out
the
there.
matter is that it makes some sort of twisted sense.
Right. Now, I'm not going to say I came down and thought about this and like had figured out all the details, what's the nitty gritty. It's just an idea I had, and partially was based on, well, how could Ncuti come back? Because we know Ncuti has the play he's doing other parts. I wonder if Ncuti did go to RTD and go, look, I can't wait around and figure. I got to move on with my career a little bit. I still want to be the doctor though. How do we do this? Well, if I do this and then we do get commission, we can always bring you back. And here's my theory on how that could potentially happen. And actually, it would be the impetus of why Billy Piper was brought back in the first place. I
Mhm.
sat down and watched this, and I said, I watched the regeneration, and it is so completely obviously done after the fact. Like they shot the regeneration. I don't think Billy Piper was brought in. I think that might have been added even more recently than the reshoots. She was definitely not there the day of reshooting of the
Yeah.
regeneration shot. Definitively not there because there's the after show they did, and Billy Piper was not involved in that whatsoever. It almost looks like, honestly, they just kind of like superposed her face on Shooty's like it
That's exactly what happened, to be honest.
was not the greatest effect. I'm not gonna lie. If you look at it closely, like, and then I got involved in the emotions of it and everything else, and so it works. But when you watch
Yeah.
it back a couple more times, you see it. In fact, I saw my point. If you look really closely, you can actually still see Shooty's like hair behind her a little bit at one point, like it's a
Yeah.
little bit. I don't care. It's fucking Doctor Who. Look at season one's stuff. Either way, so it feels like that's like a last.
Also, do you notice how much his regeneration looks like the Bad Wolf power
That is
generation?
part of what our
Yeah.
theory is. Yes. So my theory goes is that I watched this regeneration energy. It looked a little different, and now I granted I'm not gonna lie, regeneration does look different from doctor to doctor. Sometimes it's like this massive freaking big explosion. Sometimes it's just pure Capaldi, like quick turn, like it happens like it happens. But the energy itself did look a little different, and it did look more like the Bad Wolf time TARDIS, the vault or the vortex, the time vortex that's
Mhm.
in there, which we saw very prominently at the end of season one or season whatever, the Christopher Eccleston era. And Rose had like opened up the time vortex and got into her eyes, and Christopher Eccleston had a whole thing. That was how Christopher Eccleston regenerated. Bad Wolf. What if
Bad Wolf.
when she opened the time vortex and got into it, she didn't necessarily go right to the Ninth Doctor? Because we've had that kind of stuff happen before. And somehow the time vortex threw her into a future in a place where she was needed. And somehow, instead of actually regenerating, the time vortex shunted Ncuti off somewhere else to some kind of parallel dimension. I don't know where necessarily. Something happened where he didn't actually regenerate. And she is there as Rose Tyler from season one. And then the next season or miniseries or whatever they do is Rose Tyler and the TARDIS looking for the Doctor. And maybe she's even looking for Eccleston or looking for a way to get back. But her goal ends up becoming finding Shutigawa. And at the end of the season or end of whatever they want to do, Ncuti can come back, reclaim the role, and Rose can be sent back the vortex to season one of the New Who.
It's really not a bad theory. I'll say that. It's
It's
really
very
not.
RTD.
Oh, it's 100% very RTD, and that's why, like, there's a part of me that believes that that is 100% a thing that they could be doing.
Because that would actually let them go, okay, we want you to come back. We want you to come back. Let's do this. And then, but Shooty's got to act like in the press. You got to basically say, oh, new doctor can't come, like, because otherwise that you got
It
to
al
play into it.
it also explains him saying, "Oh, we're gonna be shooting season 3, we're gonna shoot season 3," only to have it kinda, like, go away. Um, there's a lot of interesting, like, there's some weirdness to the whole situation still,
Right.
and so I like the way you're thinking because it also kinda handles that weirdness up front.
Right. Absolutely. And also retroactively it can do stuff. I like when things retroactively can like add things to the past. Like there was that time when the moment said something about Rose Tyler and saying like I chose this face from your past or maybe your future. I sometimes get those mixed up. This would be that. Like maybe she was in the future with the 14th or the 15th Doctor rather just for a brief amount of time, and that's what it kind of like threw it off. Um, it would make sense that TARDIS loves the Doctor, would try to do anything for him, and maybe he doesn't want to. Why? And there'll be questions like, well, why did the TARDIS decide to save Ncuti and not David Tennant didn't want to go? And like, yes, I understand that, but it is that again timey-wimey thing. For whatever reason, the TARDIS made up their mind to help out more this time, or help. Maybe the TARDIS wanted to help out several times, and this is the one that actually worked or something. We don't know. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter, honestly. The truth is that's a way you can work around it. And RTD has been for a while, this entire season, it seems like his writing has been banking on finding ways to work around behind the scenes type stuff. So that's why my theory to me like makes sense. I don't know if it's going to happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen. But again,
but I like it as a theory.
And introducing Billie Piper, because if she's not the Doctor, which appears to be the case, because otherwise, why would you do it otherwise? Why would you not say introducing Billie Piper's the Doctor? Why would you go through the press and say we have to find out who she is if she was just the Doctor? So this explains that.
No, 100%. And again, either it being Rose or it being Bad Wolf or her even being the moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of ways that you can play with the past and bring all this full circle.
Right.
I'm really, really interested in what the explanation is. And I think that Russell has a better idea of where he's going than I think people want to give him credit for.
Right. I do too.
Everyone's so busy being angry that they're not thinking through where this is all going. Now, my other thought is it would be cool if she was the Valyard, only because I'd really love to see a version of the character because we really haven't seen that character since the Six Doctors era on screen.
Right.
So, like,
and
the Dream Master kind of was the Valyard.
Right.
But
kind of.
not really explicitly stated as such. So I'd love it. What if we finally got that? Because Billie has actually become a very great dark actress.
Yes.
So if you wanted to lean on that like dark side of the Doctor, there's something really cool.
I agree.
Doing that with her. And again, what if Bad Wolf and Valyard are the same?
Could be, and that could be a long time bringing RTD's back into the fold, so to speak, or the whole coming full circle, I should say. I would love that. I would absolutely love that. I think it's a great idea, and it has potential to do a lot of different cool things in the Doctor Who world, and what a way to open up the universe to different stories. A lot of different chances. Valyard's actually something that also would be very RTD at this point, because RTD has definitely fallen in love with, and some will say for good or for bad, like in your miles may vary, but he likes to bring people back now at this point. We've already getting back, got Sutek, Omega, we got now Billie Piper coming back for that. Like he brought the Ronnie back, and the Valyard has been something that the old school Doctor Who fans have been asking for a long time. It's always been a case of, maybe the Valyard's coming finally. Maybe the Valyard's coming finally. And who would love to do that more than RTD? RTD would love to add that. You have it Billie Piper? Okay. I see where you're going. Let's see what happens.
So there's just a lot to kind of break down in where it could go. And I think that's why I'm so excited and I'm so curious, because at the end of the day, I think there's potential here to do something cool. Because the other thing is, we're at the 20th anniversary of New Who, and you still have Tennant out there. As 14.
Yeah.
So him coming in contact with Billie Piper as the face of the Doctor is something you can play with, and they're going to.
You have to. And like, again, I know there's something out there. People are kind of like, quote unquote, we're sick of David Tennant coming back. And I don't love that, because quite frankly, I love David Tennant coming back every time. That's fine with me.
Me too. I'm never going to be mad about it.
No, I don't think if he's there for as long as he's alive, you use him, and you use him as much as you want to. And he has said he didn't want to come back for a while too, but I think that was probably before the Billie Piper casting. And when something like that makes this much sense, then it would be a missed opportunity if they didn't, because he's out there. They don't have to write anything timey-wimey about it. The 14th Doctor, as far as we know, is still out there. So we can just have him come even for an episode, for a special, whatever it is. He's not coming back for a long season, I don't think, but like having him it would just make sense. It would make all the sense in the world to have him pop up, have that great moment between them. You're like, yes, that's good fan service, as they say. I'd love the idea.
I do too. I think it's something that you have to do in some
I agree.
capacity too. So I kind of love that. Not for anything. Did you see all the pictures that they released of Tom Baker today, by the way?
No.
He created I guess he has a website and he like updated his website
Uh,
and it's a bunch of pictures of him dressed back in his fourth doctor garb in his backyard. And he's like
oh.
all like hiding behind trees and looking like the doctor and doing like the shh thing and stuff. It's really cool and it makes me happy. He looks
Aw.
really good for being in his 90s and living his best life, still loving Doctor Who, man. Like it's just a very cool thing to see.
Yeah, I mean, he looks so much still like that doctor. Like, it's amazing, like, how despite his being what he's 94, 91, whatever. I don't know. He's somewhere in his 90s. And my God, it just he still looks like the same
Yeah,
crazy old doctor, man, that we want to say. And yeah, I have to go through those because that'll make me smile big time, I'm sure.
it really does. And I gotta say, man, like one of the things too in talking about all this, something I thought that was really cool. They kind of did it a couple of times throughout the last handful of episodes has been this idea that every time what like Shooty would say something or 14 would say something and they were like, huh, that's so out of character for me in some capacity. Look how far I've come. And
Right.
so, you know, when Jody starts talking about I love you, or and Shooty goes, I loved you. I loved you as the doctor. I loved being you and that whole thing. And she goes, oh, I didn't talk like that. Oh, I should say that to Yaz. And he goes,
Yeah, you never do.
you never do, but she knows. I
Yes.
freaking cried. I just
Yeah.
couldn't. But it was such a great moment. And I gotta say, man, they've really done a great job of like this idea that the doctor really did rehabilitate.
Agreed, agreed. And some people have argued that it didn't because he gets like so emotional at times. So like that's part of the reason why he gets emotional. He's in touch with his feelings more. Because Jody's character, well, she started honestly with Peter Capaldi. I mean, Matt Smith had a certain level of doctor. Peter Capaldi came in and reinvigorated the alienness of the Doctor, which is one of the things I loved. I loved him instead of being like, I mean, David Tennant and Matt Smith were definitely more of the rom com Doctor. Let's be completely honest. There was definitely more of that like he's going to have some maybe relationship with their companions. They love it. It's that kind of thing. Matt Smith, well, David Tennant specifically. Matt Smith kind of went a little bit more away from that. Peter
Mhm.
Capaldi really went away from that and really tried to embrace like the Tom Baker alien side of things, which I think was a great idea. And then Jodie really made her kind of like this. He went further in for terms of like having trouble communicating like in the proper way because she was very not cold but like very detached at times and couldn't really get her emotions across and everything else. Shooty became the exact opposite after therapy. And that's exactly what you see on screen if you watch it. Because David Tennant returned and he had his moments. And then when he became Shooty with the Bi Generation, he undergoed this like a moment of getting in touch with their emotions. And that's why he cried every episode. And I loved every time he did it because he really showed a different side of the Doctor than we've seen before. It's a cycle, guys. People, that's what happens when you go through life. New phase of life, new emotions, similar personality, but doctors have always had that kind of like everything about the specific doctor that makes them more unique or more in terms with each other. So I really appreciate that. I think that's wonderfully how they do it.
100%. I mean, I don't know, man. Um, I think overall for me, these last 2 seasons, and especially this season, really captured that spirit of what I love about Who from the fun, the adventures. The Mr. Ring-a-Ding character was one of the great villains introduced in the series.
Yes.
That whole episode is fantastic.
Yes.
Um, I love the use of unit throughout this season. Conrad was also a very good adversary, someone who uses one of the companions' old adventures and being left behind
Yes.
against them in some capacity was very, very smart, very cool. Overall, man, like I don't have a lot of complaints about
No,
this season.
me either at all. Honestly, I think it's a great overall great season. Again, we understand it's messy. It is messy. It is chaotic at times. But overall, I mean, let's go back. Like we haven't talked about. I mean, it's funny. We kind of did this episode. We're gonna recap season two. We haven't actually recapped much of anything season two. We've been talking more about the future and more about just the overallness of it. But
Yeah.
I
I
like how our
feel like we
conversation has
kinda
gone.
covered it
So
as we were going though too.
yeah,
Like, we hit the points that I feel like you need to hit.
I do. I think there are a couple of things I would like to point. Looking
Please
back,
do,
I
by
think
all
we
means.
had that Lux episode was fascinating, and that does not happen without the Disney budget. By
I
the way,
fucking
just so we
love
know,
that one, man.
throwing it out there. My son, that's his favorite, one of his favorite episodes of all time. Partially he's biased; he loves animation and things like that, so it really hit the right nerve for him. I think we had some great moments, like the well. We had a
The
sequel
Well
to
was
Midnight.
so good. Yeah,
Sequel to
that
Midnight,
sequel to
which
Midnight.
really embraced the horror side of things, which we haven't talked much about. Doctor Who, at its heart, has those horror moments, which we glom onto as being big horror fans. And that one
Mhm.
hit exactly the right notes. That it is for that match. Lucky Day, we mentioned that that's the idea with Conrad. I agree with you. He was a great adversary, a monster who wasn't a sci-fi monster. He was just a person who was a
Well, not
monster.
just that. I gotta say, it was a person who came from a broken family and was really damaged, and all he wanted was to be embraced and loved. And it was actually a pretty decent look at what I think the unfortunate side of incel and
Yeah.
conspiracy leads people to becoming.
They're all
There's
looking
a
for
reason that
community.
these people fall into that,
Yeah, they're looking for
because
some
they
kind of community.
yeah, and it I thought that they handled it in a such a brilliant way in some capacity, which is why in the finale when Ruby's like, "I have one wish, and it's for, you
You'd be
Conrad
happy.
basically be happy." What a fucking moment, dude.
Yeah, it was powerful, and I think it subverted expectations of like what people said. Like everybody wants the whole, he deserves death, and we're gonna attack our enemies, and we gotta slap him in the face. And no, we're choosing to want to give love and show you some of the errors of your ways and give you what you were missing, and then life will take care of you and that will help you out and you will become the person you always should have been or could have been. I think it was a very powerful moment. I thought it was really well handled. Let's take something we expect to happen and just change it and make it even better, make it a better version of it. I like it.
Yeah, 100%.
I love the story of the engine. What a great! I actually like. It was a touching thing because here it is. We have a very very white showrunner dealing with an African American doctor who, and this is a very African American episode as far as like the barbershop and the African gods and things like that. And so I was very hesitant about like going, well, let's see how they do. And I've looked online to kind of, because I always want to get other people's thoughts on that kind of stuff because it's not my culture. And everybody seemed to enjoy it. Everybody seemed to think it worked out pretty well. And I think it was a very awesome look into it. In fact, I was so glad we had an African American doctor or to really get into that, to showcase that in a way which we have never been able to do before. Because it's always been like a white male in London and everything else. Now we got
Yeah.
a different side of things, which is really cool and more Doctor Who, quite frankly. And it's actually one of my favorite episodes. It's very, very deep, told like that moment in the end when he like we see all the doctors again. I'm always a sucker for that. Anytime you see a flash of all the doctors, I'm always like, yeah, give it to me again. Yep, just keep showing me, showing me the doctors over and over again. But it felt right. It felt powerful, and even had a touch of the Dark Doctor in there, where he's like basically gonna he really chastised his former friend, but then at the end they make up because that's the Doctor. That's really the
Mhm,
Doctor.
mhm.
Interstellar Song Contest, so much fun, so much
Yeah,
fun.
super fun.
So many different things you do, and again, speaking about Dark Doctor, we had a great moment at the end when he started torturing the kid, and everything else. Not the kid is the character's name. And that part was phenomenally well done. And Belinda had to kind of stop him from being like too much in there. Um, and some people pointed that out, like, so the doctor's still in his therapy. Yeah, therapy is not a one and done kind of thing, guys. I
Yeah,
can tell ya.
as someone who is still in therapy, it's
Right,
not one and done.
right,
You continue to go
right.
because it's good to work on yourself.
And also means sometimes you can slip and have things that are traumatic to you and you react poorly to them still. It
Mhm.
happens no matter what work you're doing. And yeah, so that was another beautiful episode overall, though. And that's of course when we see the Ronnie bi-generate and become the Ronnie again, and that was wonderful. Um, Wish World, good penultimate episode, and we actually talk mostly about the reality war as it is, and overall, again, I think a very proper finale. It pretty much went nonstop. There was no slow parts. They had an hour and 10, and it flew by. Wrap things up well enough at this point. Uh, yeah,
Yeah, man. Look, I'll say this. I again, I think that the two-part finale, while messy as it was, it really did work for me. Because again, I felt like it came from an ultimate place of more being about the character than the storyline, which inherently might be a problem when you've built everything up to be a mystery.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if I get caught in the feels over it, I feel like I can overcome a lot of the kind of messiness to it. And
Yeah.
again, Russell's always been kind of a messy writer. I
Yes.
love I love, The Stolen Earth and Journey's End, but it's not like those are inherently really super well written also.
Yes.
They're
Absolutely.
also messy. I think his season 3 Utopia stuff with the Master, all of that is super messy, but it still
Yes.
works. Dude, the end of time is just nonsense for 2 hours, and I don't care.
I love it. I
Yeah,
love it.
I love it. Like, I think it's great. So, it's all about is is it making me feel?
Yes, that's the important part, and I think it does. And I've watched people like when Shooty Gava regenerates, I felt like a deep hole. I loved him. I thought he was an awesome doctor. I didn't want to see him go. I understood why it was happening. I got through it. I had been kind of like already, I had, because of the business side of things and some of the leaks we heard, I kind of had time to process it. So maybe you haven't had time to process it yet. Somebody hasn't, and that's okay too. But I'm going to
Yeah.
miss him. I wish he'd got another season. We haven't, at the end of the day, he really wasn't a doctor for a very long amount of time. We had what? Two 8 episode seasons and 2 Christmas specials. That's what we got with him, and that's it. Um, but you know
Yeah,
what?
I gotta
Chris Jackson
say,
had one
it's
season, and we remember him quite fondly as well. So he's definitely made his mark, and that's the important thing. I wish we can get more. I hope he does come back. I hope he's a doctor who, unlike Capaldi, who I love, seems not to want to come back for multi-doctor stories. Give me Shooty come back for a special here and there. Let's see what
I
happens.
think I think people are really hard on Shooty.
Yeah, I agree.
I said it earlier up front, and I think that he genuinely does love the character. I think he genuinely loves the show. He wanted to be the Doctor so bad.
Yeah,
Like, he had told his manager well before this how badly he wanted to play the Doctor, and he got the dream role, and I don't think he left because he wasn't happy. He left because there's a lot of uncertainty, and that sucks.
right.
But at the end of the day, like, so long as he still has a love for the character, I think he'll come back. And yeah, he played the character in a handful of episodes, just a few more than Chris Eccleston did, because Eccleston did a whole 13, obviously.
Right.
I think when Shooty's all said and done, what he ended up being in 18 episodes, so 5 more. So that'd be the 2/8, this Christmas special, and the giggle. That sounds correct.
That sounds
So
about right. Yeah.
about 18 episodes. Yeah, it was a little bit of a longer run than Chris's, but it's still arguably the shortest run of any mainline Doctor
Yeah.
on television. And that takes McGann out of it just because that doesn't really seem fair. It was just the movie. If we
Yeah.
really want to get technical about it, McGann has had one of the longest runs since, thanks to the audios. And
Second,
hey,
yes,
look,
absolutely.
yeah, and for all we know, Shooty might decide to roll up to Big Finish. That's always a thing because Chris Eccleston said he'd never come back, and now he's done, 20 plus episodes over at Big Finish with another 12 on the way because he's doing an entire season with Billy Piper.
Actually, that's something I wanted to ask you about. Is like how far along are we with that, and how long is it supposed to go? Because now, if she's going to be in the main show, is she going to do the main show and Big Finish at the same time? I mean, I don't know.
The Big Finish stuff is like well recorded already.
Oh, it is okay. Okay,
Yeah, a lot of the time when we hear about a lot of it, it's already been recorded
done.
along the way.
Okay, makes sense.
Because they've talked about it. They said that they have recordings for Tom Baker all the way through 2030.
Hmm. Wow.
And like when you
Wow.
listen to a lot of the and when you listen to a lot of the making of stuff on Once in Future, which was their 60th anniversary special,
Right.
we got that, last year and the year like throughout that year. And yet at the same time, when you listen to it, they were talking about that they were recording that during like COVID lockdowns.
Oh, jeez. Okay. Wow.
So, like, they really have recorded a lot of it ahead of time, although it also didn't stop them from being like, "By the way, if you wanna come over to Big Finish, all the stuff starring Billy Piper is, like, 40% off right now, which I thought was just amazing.
Right.
But it's kind of a bummer that we're still in this uncertain era. At the end of the day, I really am happy that we still have the war between land and sea. It's such a mouthful. I wish they'd fucking change the name.
I hate the title too.
I
I have gotten
hate
that
the
title
title.
more times on our podcast than any other thing I've ever talked about in my life, I think.
Yeah, I think the title is a mouthful. I don't like it, but I'll say this: even if the show goes off the air for a while, the nice thing is that we're not far away from new Doctor Who content. We have
Right.
so much cool shit coming out of Big Finish right now. We have Jodie Whittaker, like her era starts in July, where she's done 12 episodes. She's doing a whole season. We're getting the same out of the Chris Eccleston and Billy Piper run, where they're going to do the 9 Rose stories that we didn't see
Right.
on screen. They're still doing a lot of stuff with the classic Doctors. There's so much cool stuff happening right now on that
Agreed.
front. There's comics, there's books, like there's so much you can dive into. And look, there's a lot of people who probably have never seen classic Who. If you're really jonesing for new Doctor Who, but you don't know where to go, try the
Okay.
classic era. Try
Okay.
some of the Tom Baker stuff. Look into some of the more like classic serials that he was in. Look up some of the John Pertwees or the Peter Davisons or the Colin Baker ones. Like there's all sorts of good stuff. Check out the Paul McGann movie. Dive into the Big Finish audios. You can't go wrong. You
Agreed.
really can't. There's so much cool stuff out there, guys. Like please check it out. I'm glad that we had the time with Shooty that we did. I thought he was so good in the role. I'm really
Mhm.
gonna miss him. I think it's a big bummer that he's gone already. It seemed like we
Agreed.
just got him.
I 100% agree. I feel like I can remember just us being like, David Tennant's coming back, and then we got Shooty coming. Who's a Shooty Gawa character? I love what I see in the trailer. And here it is, and we're leaving him. He's leaving. I mean, that's the case with a lot of doctors. I felt that way about Capaldi. I felt that way about Jodie a little bit in a way. Like,
I
even though
just
those are
wanted Jody
longer
to have a
things.
different writer.
And me too. And I'll throw my theory out there now. It's your first time listening. I still feel there's a gut feeling, no real that Capaldi was forced out earlier than he wanted to leave, and he's just too good. He's just too much of a gentleman to say anything or to act anyway differently. I think it might be one of the reasons why he doesn't want to come back. Completely honest, though, potentially. That's rumor and that's hearsay. That's my speculation, but just the way I've read the tea leaves, I feel like they wanted a new era for Jodie, like a new writer, new doctor, new companion with everything else, and I don't thoughts on it, but I wish it hadn't. I wish Capaldi had been there. But then again, maybe it's just because I wanted Capaldi to be there for a lot longer because that's how much I loved Peter Capaldi's era. It could be.
Yeah, I get it, man. Trust me, I definitely get it. But this is the difference with this one, though, right? Is that this feels a lot more like we still had so much potential and time with him.
Right. Yeah, I agreed.
You know,
Agreed. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but it is what it is. Do you have anything else you would like to say, my friend?
I guess not. Should we? I guess it's proper to say. Do you have a ranking of where Shooty falls on your list of doctors now?
I really haven't even thought about it yet.
Okay.
As weird as that sounds, I'll say I fucking love him. Obviously, like I think he was fantastic in the role.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, I agree. I agree. I was wondering if you had. I don't necessarily have one either. He did not overtake Capaldi for me. I'll say that. He's definitely not my
no,
favorite doctor of
fair.
all time. I think that never. I think once you settle on your favorite doctor, it's hard to ever
Shake
go
it.
anywhere further to shake it from that.
Yeah.
It'd have to be something really, really like earth shattering to change it. But I will say he is up there in my top echelon. I will definitely say that. I did love him. And I will say, I will give him credit. And you and I talked about this before on our little season 1 podcast. He was probably, I think almost definitely the quickest to worm his way into our hearts. Like a
Well,
lot of times the
yeah.
doctors tend to take a little bit to kind of get into. Right from the get-go, we're like, we like this is the doctor, we like this guy, kind of thing.
I think that and I'll say it again just because um we talked about it very early on. You can go back and listen to our podcast on it, obviously. But I think the reason that he fell into it so quickly was having it be a multi-doctor story where Tennant took the back seat
Yeah,
once the bi-generation happened, really helped push the momentum of how good Shooty could be in the role, because it
agreed.
meant he went toe-to-toe with Tennant and NPH, held his own, and then some.
Yes, 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 entirely. I like that idea. So Yeah, I guess that should probably do it. It's funny how we went into this conversation and we are like, okay, we're gonna recap season 2. And I was like, do you want any structure? Do you want to talk about how we're gonna do this? And you're like, structure, fuck structure. We're just gonna have a conversation. And I'm like, that's good. That's a good idea. We'll just have a conversation. And honestly, this all became more of a overall state of the Doctor Who
Yeah, it
uh,
did.
podcast that I did the actual season 2 recap, and I'm okay with that because we definitely highlighted season 2 as part of it. I like that. I think it's a very
Doctor
cool thing
Who
we did.
State of the Union.
I think this might be something we do as Big Blue Box moves forward. I kind of like this instead of doing a weekly after show, like at the end of a season. Like I think we might come back the next time. We might come back unless something breaking happens. We're going to do something. Maybe we'll come back at the end of Land Between War Between Land and Sea. See, I did it again. War Between Land and Sea. Maybe we'll just do a recap of that season 2, where the state of the universe at that time, and highlight specifically that miniseries and any news that comes out at that point. I think it might be the best way to do it. Maybe we'll do that going forward. Next, like every season, we'll just do an end of season
I
callback,
think
whatever.
that's the move, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's fun for us to do it that way too, and it becomes less homeworky because we don't have to like worry about, oh, I got to take notes. We got to do every episode. Like, just kind of overall feelings and thoughts, and
Yeah.
let us know what you guys think about it. Do you like this aspect? Do you like this approach to it? Did this lead something good, or
And
maybe?
also, tell us what you thought of the episode. Like, I
Yeah.
look, if you didn't like it, I'm not gonna shame you. Just be cool about it. You
Yes.
be cool. Like, I'm gonna George Clooney from Dusk Till Dawn you. Be cool. You be cool.
You
We
be
don't
cool.
need to be assholes about
Right.
not liking it. Um, if it didn't work for you, I get it. If the Billy Piper casting doesn't quite work for you yet, I get it. But also on that front, let's give it time and see where it's going first before we, really try to complain too much about it, because I think there's a lot more at play than we first realize. So there is that. Otherwise, man, it was good to have a good season of Doctor Who. I wish it had lasted longer. I
Yeah.
think that's always going to be my biggest complaint right now, is that the 8 episode seasons just aren't long enough. I want to go back to the 13 episodes. I'd rather 13 episodes every year and a half than 8 episodes and a potential hiatus every single time because you're waiting for someone else to renew the show.
Yeah, I just give me a plan. Give me a plan in
Yeah.
place that's going to work for all of us. And I'm hopeful it stays on Disney. I'm one of the, maybe I might be one of the few out there. I don't know. I want to stay on Disney Plus because of the idea that Disney Plus does give it, or Disney does give it some extra budget that they need. And if we can get the rights to New Who, and I would love to see them get the rights to Classic too. I don't know who has them or if that's how work that is. I would love to have an actual Whoniverse streaming home. That should be great for it. But
Mhm.
you're there. All right. I guess that should do it for us, folks. PJ, where can the folks find you?
You guys can find me on all the social medias at PJ_Campbell. Um, I'm slowly working my way back to the bad place while spending most of my time over on Blue Sky. I've also started using my Letterboxd a lot more. I'm writing reviews again, having fun with it. You might actually just see me staying up late watching Muppet movies and writing about the Muppets again, because I tend to do that from time to time. Otherwise, man, just hanging out here. You guys can catch us on Two Middle Age Geeks on Film once a week, if you are a Patreon member.
Correct. We
And
are
if
every
you
other
are
week
not,
on the main
every other
channel.
week. Yes.
But yeah, the alternate weeks where we're not on the air publicly, we are actually usually airing an episode on Patreon, which actually, just so you guys know, this is debuting on Patreon first. These is going to go on Patreon and our YouTube membership first, and then in 2 weeks, it's going to go into the main channel during an off week of Two Middle Age Geeks on Film. Yeah, I like that idea. I think it's a lot of fun. You can find me again all over the socials, Paul_Denuzio on Twitter, Paul Denuzio on Blue Sky. I do also Blue Sky more than anything else. I go to Twitter because some people didn't move over. I just like to keep an eye on them. And not on news stuff, but Blue Sky is definitely my preferable place. So meet me there.
Yes. Same.
Using the Blue Skies. I did notice you posted a thing on Twitter, like, oh, he's posting on Twitter. Interesting. I wasn't going to call you out on it, so I'm glad you mentioned it.
No, it was very intentional.
I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, you can find me on the podcast. I have, like we already, PJ mentioned our podcast weekly. I also do a podcast with Lego called Review, which we're finishing up the 2009 remake of V. We did the entire V franchise. Man, that 2009 was a hate watch. We taking a little bit of a break in between. We're gonna do some review with Jason stuff. That's kind of cool, like influences of V and things that V influence, like Independence Day, things involving like Mark Singer and Michael Ironside from the original V, like Watchers 1 and 2. For example, a lot of cool, kind of fun things like that. Before we get into the books and comics from the V franchise as well, we will cover it all. And I also do a Queen podcast every week, and I do a Star Wars podcast, which is going to be bi-weekly now. I'm still trying to figure out with Maddie. If it's going to be bi-weekly, we might actually put it down earlier. It might be a Star Wars after show, and then also at times where we want to throw something out there, some kind of big moment, instead of being like a weekly podcast again. Stay tuned to that. Well, it's probably aired live. If you're watching this on the main channel, it's probably already aired. So we have an episode that we're coming out this week where we're covering A New Hope as the end of the Andor saga, pretty much as it is the Andor.
No, but that means that you have to go watch Return of the Jedi also.
I've considered going to Empire and Return of the Jedi. We might actually do that too. So that might be the case. Might just finish the whole trilogy as a way to go. And that might be the case. But we'll have more on that on the episode. Me and Maddie have a chance to really talk about our future there. And finally, class action once a month. We get to do things on that. This month in June 30th, we are doing the Mission Impossible Battle Royale. All 8 of the movies going into one ring. And we're going to have custom-made categories, and it's going to be an interesting
one of those movies is going to be at the bottom, and it deserves to be at the bottom, and it should feel bad about itself.
Absolutely. Mission Impossible 2 does deserve that. And we
you're a bad person, and you know what I'm talking about.
That's another conversation we'll have at some point, I'm sure, somewhere along the way.
I hated the movie so much and so long. Actually, that's not true. Then I watched Fear Street Prom Queen, and that was almost worse.
That one I agree with you on. I mean, I understand your hate for the other one, but Fear Street, I actually am right there with you at this point. All right, guys, love you so much. We'll see you next time at Patreon for Iron Man 3, and next time on this channel, we're actually covering Ballerina, the John Wick story. That's coming out in theaters, and then after that, we'll jump back on the Superman train with Batman vs Superman.
Good thing that I actually got my ticket for tomorrow, because they're doing one of those early fan screening things. Right. Because my week is just so chaotic, and I forgot we were covering it. I just I happened to buy a ticket just out on a whim because I was like, I need to get out of the house tomorrow by one day off during the week.
I'm glad you did do that. Absolutely. All right, take care, guys. See you later.
Bye. Bye.